So let's talk about the many different methods of processing wood that are out there. You've got, and the different pros and cons. You got a low-speed shredder, horizontal grinder, tub grinder, and chippers. What do you see in the industry as most common, and what is the advantages of one versus the other? Many operations utilize maybe one of each, but let's start with low-speed shredder.
Low-speed shredders, in the U.S. anyway, are fairly new. I say within the last 10 years or so. But what the primary purpose there is to break down bigger material, stumps, logs, that type of thing that the high-speed shredder can more easily digest. So, if we're doing stumps on a high-speed grinder, it's a manipulation. It's a challenge. If you don't have that, then you've got to shear another machine over here that's having to break it down and remove the dirt and so forth. So a low-speed shredder would do that. It would do it efficiently. If we ran across contaminants, say like some farmland, some a cast iron block or something of that sort, then, that machine is designed to break away to protect itself. But also it can dump that contaminant. A magnet could be on the tail end, the conveyor, and be able to remove that metal before it gets to your high-speed grinders. And they're pretty fuel efficient.
Sure.
But they're fairly productive. So yeah.
And they're certainly not going to be able to create a consistent small mulch product with the shredder, though. So it's not the end all be all. You still need something else like a higher speed. So then you get into the high-speed grinding realm, and you've got both a horizontal grinder and a tub grinder. Talk to me about the differences of why one would consider one versus the other.
So the tub grinder is often, in a lot of companies, they're some of the favorites. Everybody has their niche, but at any rate, a tub grinder basically works off gravity. You could have a flare of 13 feet at the top and then a 10-foot tub itself, about 5 foot deep. And you could come up with a 7-yard bucket and just dump and run. Cycle time could be fantastic. So it pulls itself down by gravity as it's grinding. And of course, it is screened, unlike the low-speed shredder.
There's some shredders
out there.
But mostly not.
Yeah.
Right.
But we've got the high speed of, we could have 1,300 RPMs of that drum. And that's what's going to really help make that product nice. Just hammering it down. Yeah. So that's going to make, also from a maintenance standpoint, typically you could stand at the fender of that tub and look from left to right without moving and see a lot, 80% of the components.
Right.
From engine to drive shaft to bearings to belt to hammer mill, all of that.
And the whole top table can open. So it's very accessible.
Very accessible.
Straightforward to work on.
So very easy to work for. A con in that is that you do need a pretty high loading height.
Sure.
So we're talking 10, 11 feet, somewhere around 12 feet, depending on the model. So we have that. And then there is the potential of throwing material out of the tub.
Right. The biggest rap it gets is the potential for thrown objects, which is, a concern in the industry. Talk to me about some different approaches to overcome thrown objects.
So, there's machines out there that have literally what they call pot leads that once the material gets low in the tub, that they can actually place stuff on top and cover it up. It's a little cumbersome, but companies like Vermeer do have a cover, basically covers a third of the tub, and material is directed into that from a deflector into the top of that lid that helps knock that material back down in the event that it does escape the top of the tub.
And then what's the other dynamic, probably the most pivotal one, and that is the operator. Right?
Oh, yes.
So
yes.
How a tub is fed and an operator understanding when a tub can throw material is another key factor. And that's a big role that you play, and I know, in delivering a grinder. Talk to me about some of the coaching tips you'd give an operator when it comes to feeding a tub.
What we always tried to promote safety, and it's a matter of when we're filling a tub is that we keep the tub still without it rotating until we get it full. And the key thing here is to try to keep it full all the time. If that means slowing down the production rate, slowing down the tub and so forth in order to maintain that, then that's what you do. But keeping that cover in place at all times to protect any material help prevent it from being thrown out.
Sure.
And then, a lot of times what we'll do is we have our guys with the cover in their bucket come over top like so, to help when we're actually winding that tub down and the material being ground.
Sure. Yeah. That's great. Anything else you would say about a horizontal grinder in comparison to a tub? Obviously, I think the feed system's a lot different. It can take long pull trees, kind of infinite length, really, and it's all hydraulically fed.
Yeah. So a lot more moving parts.
Right.
Quite a few more moving parts. A little bit more maintenance. Order to get to some parts versus the tub. Like you mentioned, the tub opens up and then we're exposed to pretty much everything there. The feed height is much lower. We could be 6 feet, right? So we could load it with a skid steer. But it will take, 30, 40 foot logs if you'd like to put in it, which is really good. You're not going to do that with a tub. 4 or 5 foot length is going to be the safe part with your tub. But the horizontal versus the tub, we could take a 10-foot stump and drop into the tub. We're not going to do that with a horizontal. Right. So we're talking about feed opening sometimes of 32 inches by 60 versus 10 foot. The one benefit with the safety benefit of a horizontal is we are looking at, we're going to throw anything, it's going to be forward.
Right.
So
more directional.
Yeah.
And the majority of the time, materials hitting the feed roller first.
Yeah.
Occasionally, when you got a big piece of chunk wood, it'll open, and then you've got a rubber curtain system that you can drop to.
That's right.
Very good. So last thing is chippers. Why don't we see chippers manufacturing very much mulch? There's some that do, but for the vast majority of it, it's not as preferred.
Yeah, it's just not a really preferred product. People are looking more of that hammered effect.
Yeah.
Type wood.
Better ground coverage.
It will literally bind together. So if you do have a heavy rain, it doesn't necessarily wash away with chips. You have a big chance of that washing away.